Hey, tonight on the Old Time Mini Show, we'll be making molds for the villains of the 1980s Star Frontiers role-playing game. The sinister, treacherous, slimy, wormy Sathar. Oh, I hit him so much! Hey there, welcome back to Dan's Old Time Mini Show here, live Thursday evening from Wandering DM's headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. And apologize for we're running a little bit late tonight and didn't even make an advance event. I overlooked that this week. We've had so many things going on here. So if you did manage to find us, Bakuius, I'm amazed that you found that I'm online right now. That's really impressive because I gave no advance signal to this, so that's really quite impressive. Score one for Bakuius there, and thanks for checking in that things are actually online. So at this point in our series this spring, last episode we actually finished making duplicate miniatures for at least all the player character types. So at this point, I've got miniatures for humans and blobby Dralocytes and monkey Yazirians and insect Brusk. And I had another session of the Star Frontiers campaign that I'm currently running last Friday. And the human player was pleased to finally have an official miniature. And he said, "Oh, look at that jumpsuit. That's great. I'm definitely using that." So that's working pretty well. We're having a good time with it. And at this point, as I said at the top, the one thing I haven't made is actually the intelligent mastermind bad guy aliens, the Sathar. So I really had to have those available at some point when they had to pop up at some point. So I had to have at least the Sathar there. And what I've done here, I have the couple boxes from the 1982 player characters, including the bad guy Sathar actually. So I do like this miniature that we're going to duplicate quite a bit tonight. It is, if you stand it next to the player characters, it's actually quite a bit larger than the player characters. So it's a little bit intimidating, and this Sathar has got a very large laser rifle that they're carrying around. So I think I like this. We had some other options. This same set has a Sathar in a spacesuit, which kind of hides their, kind of wormy segments. It's kind of bulky in a way that isn't totally my favorite thing ever. So, same for actually all the other player characters. So I figured I was going to make this. There's a 1983 box set that I have that has, again, two pretty well-armed Sathar in it, but they're noticeably smaller than this one. We think they might have been trying to save metal, possibly. So this is actually my favorite Sathar in the set that we're going to try to duplicate here tonight. One thing that we might possibly confront tonight is that I'm running low on my silicone rubber that I use to make the molds. So I'm going to possibly be fighting slightly viscous rubber at the end of my bottle, actually. But we have found that it is kind of convenient when I'm actually casting in the lead miniatures in my kitchen to actually have two that I'm working on. So I can do one pour, let it cool, kind of open one up, adjust it a bit, and be casting two at the same time. So time and material permitting tonight, I also grabbed the box of official Star Frontiers robots that I actually got kind of recently. And there's a half dozen different robots in here. I got it on the cheap because they came pre-painted, which to me was win-win, but it was actually like super cheap because someone had pre-painted it. So what I've done here is I've also picked out what's listed as a tank bot. And this is already painted in red. So this guy has some, hit him with the clamps. This guy has some clamps, and he also has caterpillar treads, which I think is why it's called a tank bot, so I can certainly describe this as carrying whatever weapons I want. The Sathar frequently come on the field with a bunch of combat robots and warbots and stuff like that, so I feel like maybe having a couple extra of these guys when the Sathar show up would be appropriate, and we'll try to make that. This might be difficult with the spindly little arms that he's got, particularly the one that's stretched out like that, so that might be a little bit of a challenge making the mold and casting it, but we're gonna take a shot. So that's the plan here, is one evil space worm and one equally evil space robot here tonight is what we're going to try to do. And Bagrees, thanks so much for checking on Discord just as I made the event. I was going to start the stream here, and then I was like, why isn't my event in my drop down list? I'm like, oh, I forgot to make one. Ooh. Yes, exactly, the clamps. If you're not practicing your stabbing, hit him with the clamps. All right, so let me get set up here. Put down some protective newspaper that's hopefully not either not too distracting on the stream, which is a problem I've had in the past. My local New York paper here that I picked up a couple days ago. No. So while I'm doing this, you can also get your horoscope and your Yankees news. Your horoscope from a couple months ago, apparently, is what I'm seeing. So you can double check how well your horoscope did back in March. And I'm going to grab my mold, my rubber mixing cup here, and pull out the rubber remnant from last time. Again, as I get to the bottom, that's not where the trash can is at all. Just threw a chunk of rubber on my floor. So if you remember last time, I am getting down to the bottom of my current bottle of this Umu silicone rubber. So the I have to kind of work a little bit more at mixing it, and I'm just looking at the remnant in the cup here. It's kind of more bubbly. It's got more ripples in it as I was kind of fighting the mixing a little bit. So we'll see if it gets even more so tonight. As usual, I'll point out kind of near the start of the show here that we are trying to be rather safe with these materials. If you get into this hobby of making your own lead-based miniatures that I've been doing for a couple decades at this point, I kind of like it. But we are working with lead miniatures, both the originals from the 80s and the ones that I'm casting for duplicates. We are using a mostly lead-based metal. So you want to be careful about that. Avoid getting shavings in bad places. Clean up carefully after the fact. I always wash my hands and clean up very carefully after the show is over. Also, there can be vapors coming off the silicone rubber and the release agent. So as usual, I keep my workspace very well ventilated. And even though here in Brooklyn now, it's come off incredibly hot and muggy the last week or two, I do have my AC off currently so that I can have my window fully open. And I do have air quality monitor right in front of me that I'm kind of watching. So everything looks good at the moment. It might be interesting if you go back to the very first episode of this season, you'll see that whatever it was, like the 1st of March, I was complaining about how cold it was in my room because I had to keep my window open because it was basically the dead of the winter, and now we're on the other side of it, and it's gotten, for my Mainer native taste, completely unpleasantly hot. And the forecast is never right. Now I'm not one to complain about the forecast normally, but now I'm getting a little irritated that for fully, I think, 3 weeks running, the predicted high temperature, the actual temperature has been fully 10 degrees over that, day after day after day. So I actually just put in my air conditioning unit in a couple days ago. I try to keep away from that as long as possible, but it just came to a point where I actually can't trust the forecast at the moment. So they're having some difficulty, I guess I would say. Very muggy at the moment. So for the Sathar, which is our primary goal here today, you know, it is a little bit bigger than the other miniatures. So I don't know if I'm going to have to make a larger mold possibly for this. I don't know, but let me get out my knockoff Legos. So most of the molds we've been making have been this size. It's like about 3 bricks long on each side. Yeah, I guess. So that should. It's going to be a tight fit actually, but that should suffice. And then, you know, and then actually, I guess I have to think about the orientation, right? So he's holding the laser rifle pointed up, but that's of course the harder direction to get the metal in. I guess I should probably do this. I should probably tilt him. If he fits, I should tilt him like this, so that the tail and the gun are both kind of horizontal-ish. Might be the easiest thing to do. Yeah, or I could just poke the tail and the gun directly outside the mold, and that would do. Yeah, that's okay. That's an option. You know, it's on the menu. It's an option. I don't know. I guess there's a couple of different ways I could go with that. I mean, I guess we've always been finding that having it base down is better than anything else. Well, let me make my normal sized mold and then see if they fit in there. So hope that you had a good week here. That's it, right? Yeah. Yeah, that, you know, Despero, that is an option to have the tail pointing upwards. I think. I've done this so many times. I'm finding that having it base down just has repeatedly been a good thing. So I feel like I'm probably going to do that again. And it seems like having to make the corner on the base, that would be a lot of metal that has to pour around that corner like that. So that feels possibly risky to me. If it's like this, then it's going to be pouring mostly down the torso, and it has to make kind of a less of a sharp corner in 2 directions. I could be wrong. However, I did momentarily think about putting him tail up. All right, so you guys are all on board with that. For what it's worth, he has a smooth head, right? So if I put the pour hole in the head, I can just file off a smooth head. Seems pretty easy to me. You know, the last one we did, the male human with the kind of textured hair, that came out okay actually. But that was troubling. As long as it's like a helmet or something smooth, I figure when I finish it, I can just file it smooth. Works okay. But I might be constrained with the shape of the box. I might need to find an orientation that just fits, because I'd rather not. My only option here is to expand this by like at least 25%, so I'd rather not do that. I've been making this 3 high, right? Is that what I've been doing? Or I've been making it 4 high? seems too high. That seems too high to me. I've been making it 3 high, right? I've been making it this high. Yeah, that's 3 high. That's not 4 high. What are you, actually? You are the human female is what we're looking at there. We were painting that last time. I think at the end of the last episode, I had the array of my whole character set out front. Okay, you know what? That actually doesn't fit. That's, yeah, I actually can't get him in there without actually touching one of the sides. Huh. Okay. Yeah, your villain is entirely oversized. We've supersized your villains. A little worried about my current supply of rubber, actually. Yeah. So if I could, okay. So I feel, yeah. See, I think I'm gonna make it long. So I'm gonna make it wider. Put him like this, like I was thinking. Put the porthole in his head. Interesting. Okay. Didn't plan on that. There must be something every week that I don't plan on, right? Which is an interesting kind of problem-solving issue. Can I do this? Would this be okay? Geez, even that. Crazy. I guess I asked for giant wormy space aliens, so that's, you get what you ask for. Interesting. They're a lot bigger than I expected. Okay, now so what? Okay, well this is interesting because now. So now my base doesn't work, and I need to cut a new base. Okay, I'm getting more materials. I'll be right back. We always keep some amount of cardboard in the house for instances exactly like this. We do quite a bit of, as William has suggested, call it crafting projects. It's a good point, Disbarrel. In the follow-up box set, the 1983 set, things were more generally coiled around to save space. So the Vrusk miniatures, right, where in the first box set they've got all their legs in different directions, are kind of scooched up underneath them, and the two Sathar models also have the tails coiled around them for exactly that kind of issue. But again, they're way smaller. So, you know, I suppose one thing I could possibly do here is just redirect my plan and I grab the smaller miniatures from the other set. But doesn't really make my heart sing. on camera. Just before I get entirely committed, let me compare. So here is the 83 box set of the Star Frontiers Spacefarers miniatures. This pretty awesome Dave Trampier artwork on the front. Trampier. So here is original Sathar. And here is Sathar number 2 with laser rifle, right, coiled up, much smaller. That would certainly be easier to deal with. A very bulky gun there. And here's Sathar number 3, who has, in their multiple limbs, has one laser pistol and also a grenade mortar. Right, also coiled up and also much smaller. So, you know, kind of interesting. I think I'd go with the one with the gun, with the laser rifle, if I had to pick one of these. So there's our options. And just for comparison's sake, where are you? Here's the original human male. Just to compare scales. Yeah, well, yeah, probably the mortar I was not, yeah, right. The mortar was like, I kind of just don't want to deal with that whole stuff. Laser rifle, possibly better. But if I compare the human male, right, the later ones aren't quite so impressive. I mean, they're actually pretty big. Not quite so impressive. Whereas if I put this guy on the board, I think that'll get people's attention more. So everything I've been doing on the series so far has been coming out of the 82 box set. And the 83, I don't know. There was some kind of marketing forces there that didn't quite improve on the situation. So I think for a couple reasons, for impressiveness and just going with the same set in everything, I think I am going to go on this bigger guy, even if it's going to challenge my mold making ability here tonight. Exactly, and I'm already home, so it's not really an option, is it? Okay, so you guys can maybe we'll pull you in some other time, but not tonight. Right, so definitely the big guy. Put you in like this. Right, okay, so tilt it a little bit. Actually, that'll help fitting it a little bit. Put the porthole in his head. That seems like that's going to solve a number of problems. Yeah, interesting. Boy, the metal will have to flow quite a ways horizontally. Interesting. I've never done, yeah, you know what? Admittedly, I've never done something like wide, this like wide on the x-axis. I mean, that had to be the way that they formed it initially. Okay, can I find where the flash was? I mean, it can't be here because the tip of the tail is got this nice little sculpted little hook on it. Seems like there's a seam. No, that's actually part of the sculpture. There's a seam directly down the center of his torso. So the mold was the same way I'm about to do it here. pretty sure, right. I mean, that's just that's a seam. You know, it's a nice enough, it's a nice enough miniature that I actually can't find, I can't figure out how they connected it up in the first place. I don't think I've ever cleaned this up, so it's not like I ever cleaned up any flashing on it. Geez, good job. I bet if I properly air vent the tail, I bet this is probably going to be okay for me. Yeah, I do agree. Flowing horizontally up that long tail seems like possibly the difficult part. $7 o'clock. Be like that. Like that, like this. You thinking like that? It's like I'm worried that I'm gonna be. Why is my instinct telling me? I do feel like the giant mass of the base. My instinct feels like I want that at the bottom. I'm not even entirely sure why. Now I will point out, as usual, they've got the copyright stamp on the bottom of the base there. So I do kind of, as ridiculous as it is, I do try to challenge myself to get that actually on the cast. Not that that's super important, but. Do like that. I'm gonna, you know what? This might be a terrible mistake. I'm going to go with Who Brung Me to the Dance. I'm going to do my normal kind of positioning. And if in 2 weeks we find out that I screwed up massively, I will say, why did they set the game up like this? You can totally screw yourself and not know about it until 2 weeks later. I didn't have the right key. This is a little risky. Admittedly, I've never molded something wide like this. The spaceships that I did in the past, they're definitely all tall. This is true. If Tanner Cast was here, we'd get good advice. I do feel one of the lessons the last couple of weeks have been, if you can just air vent everything in sight, it just fills up okay. Alright, so you're going to go in like this. You're going to have a little pour hole in your head like this. That's pretty much... It's still a little tight in the up-down direction, actually, but I think I can make that work. Okay. Get some of my off-brand Play-Doh. fill it in. Of course, this stuff is starting to get a little bit old too. This is the same Play-Doh stuff that I've been using all season. Definitely the biggest thing we've made here this season. I'll say that at some point in the last week I showed the completed, I did a little bit more finishing with the humans that we were painting last week, and I did take them to my partner Isabelle, who is an MFA in sculpture and fine art, to check them out, and she was really impressed by how much detail I got on those human miniatures and like the guns that they're holding and stuff like that. She was very surprised. So I took that as a compliment. I'm also going to have to redo my math on how much rubber to pour too. All right, so let's see how we're going to do this. It is a very tight squeeze. You know, one thing I'm dealing with is his the barrel of his gun is so small that it's very easy to bend it. It came out just, you know, it came out of the box kind of S-curved, and I've tried to work it back straight, and even me just pushing it down the clay here, it's bending it a little bit. I feel like with my final casts, I'm probably going to have to manipulate that a little bit anyway. So I'm not going to worry about trying to get it absolutely perfect here right now. The tail kind of goes around in a weird way, kind of comes up and goes back down. Okay. Interesting. Okay, that is a tight fit, but yeah. Think that can possibly work. Obviously the metal going up into the tail is like, that's going to be the dicey part as we think. But I've gotten the spaceship stuff to do stuff like that in the past. Maybe that'll work. Maybe. That's a good point, this barrel. If I keep using it, I should put a little water and knead it in. You're right. Yep. That I was kind of negotiating between how close the base is to the bottom and fitting the pore hole in the top. I didn't want to go a whole increment larger in that direction. Yeah. I got a little space in there. That is a little dangerous. Anyway, what isn't? What isn't? Okay, so we'll call that and put in the register stand. Okay, I remembered for once. So little divots that are going to form the tabs in the two halves of the mold. Okay, all right. Cool. Now let's make a, before I put the release agent and stuff in, let's also make a mold box for our companion robot. Put that aside there. Where are you? Here you are. Okay, so a little pre-painted tank bot is what they have it in the branding on the box there. So kind of like this. There's one single, you'd almost expect that, so there's 6 robots in the pack, all different types. And you'd almost expect more of them to be armed. There's actually only one of them that is holding a gun of any sort. You know, in a game that features a lot of combat, obviously. So, and that one's marked as a security bot, and it's kind of this spindly walker. So I feel that, like for the Sathar at least, I feel like having them tracked like a tank, and I can just describe what weapons they're holding is probably a better way to go. So I'm going to use this. Now, this guy isn't huge. He's about the size of a human. Yes, William, thank you for being on track with the reminder about the registers. I'm looking at the idea of snipping off part of the pour hole to make it shorter. I think I'm okay with that. Just kind of double checking that there. Okay, so is there any way that I could possibly make this one smaller? Maybe if I make one larger and one smaller, that would make up for the extra rubber I'm going to need over there, possibly. Yeah, we'll see. You're right. Using the painting one, the main thing I was thinking about was getting, you know, the little remnants of the Play-Doh stuck on it. Sometimes I have. You're right. Maybe the rubber. Anyway, I can repaint. I'm happy with that. Frankly, you know, the fact that it came pre-painted is just like, if any amount of painting I don't have to do is a win-win for me. In my mind's eye, I kind of want the guy who did this originally to discover this stream and go, hey, that's my paint job. Okay, gotta have space for the arm. That's fine. So I'll definitely do this guy right side up. Okay, so that's clearly, I guess that's the normal size I've been making these. That's clearly enough space there. Is that the, yeah, that's the normal size. Part of the reason I was actually a little delayed tonight is I was trying to figure out what to do for model number 2 tonight. Like, I knew I was going to do that Sathar, and I was kind of debating with myself for a ridiculously long time about like what the second one should be. And I was looking at my spaceship model box, because there are a number of the spaceships for the Star Frontiers Nighthawk supplement that I never got around to duplicating. And there are some pirate ships, and you know, pirates are happening in our campaign, so I considered that. There's a civilian freighter that, you know, is a target for attacks of Sathar pirates, and I came really close to picking that. But I figured, yeah, the Sathar always show up with a bunch of combat robots, so I I should have a couple more of those on the table. All right, that'll be fine. You know, I think a couple weeks ago I had the quick death miniature, the monster in this game, which is kind of a canonical kind of apex predator challenge that shows up a number of times in the campaign as written. And I did a little bit of painting off camera last week. I think I like it. You know what? Because it was super golden. Where do I have that? Anyway, so I had it like I had it to the point where I had it super golden. What I did is I dry brushed a little bit like sandy yellow on it to kind of dirty it up. That I think worked well. Kind of highlighted the danger parts. So I kind of like how that looks, but I can't get over the fact that it's kind of not the right scale. It's a little too small. So I did go on eBay, I think yesterday, and was hunting for like a Smilodon miniature, I guess there's a Pathfinder Smilodon miniature that's at least the right scale that I might use when it comes time. William, I hadn't even thought about the release agent possibly damaging the paint. I wonder if there's anything I can do to. I mean, of course, anything if I were to put something on it to protect it, that would itself be, you know, losing some detail. I'm guessing it's like I was. I haven't been too much worried about the release agent in the past, other than what it would do to your lungs. Again, kids, use the release agent in an extremely well ventilated place. Same for when you're priming it, right? Obviously, you know that. So when you're priming your miniatures before you paint them, that's the thing I always go outside for. Is that not? You know, of course, well, I need more because I'm totally out and I need. Is that, well, no, actually, I only need this half, right? Let's call that good. Okay, so that's actually, it's a little bit low in there, but I'm out of that particular canister, so I'll call that good enough. Despero, I saw that. I actually saw the Reaper Sabertooth and Lion miniatures. And I for a second, I was looking at their Lion miniature. Looked pretty nice. But it comes unpainted. And I'm trying to avoid that kind of thing. So I got a pre-painted. I ordered a pre-painted plastic miniature. You know, maybe not the most sophisticated thing on the table, but I try, if I can get something pre-painted these days, I tend to go in that direction. And I already have, right, so generally speaking for this campaign, I actually do have several canisters of cheap, just general animal miniatures. I have some army men, I have some farm animals, I have some like zoo animals, I have some like undersea monster-y type things. And so actually, I actually do cart around at least a selection of all that stuff already, but none of them, well, I even have a pack of dinosaurs, which works really well because actually in the Star Frontiers Volturnus campaign, the first alien that you probably run into are these octopoids that ride what I'll call velociraptors. So I actually do have some dinosaur figures in the right scale that I can put octopi on the back, and it actually looks really cool on a table, as a matter of fact. My point is, none of the zoo animals were the right size, so that's why I have to go. That's why I'm go scouting for something that's the right scale. Yes, I already bought. I basically bought. I went into my local dollar store here in Brooklyn, more or less bought everything in the place. I kind of bought a package of like anything that remotely thought I could possibly use in the game. I think once upon a time, and I'm talking around like 3rd edition D&D era, I was a lot more picky about my miniatures on the table. I'm trying to keep this campaign more casual. So generally speaking, if I just get some stuff and I say, this isn't that, but it's a this, it's kind of the right scale, it kind of gives you the sense of it, you know. So there's like sort of like were-rat type things that show up, and I just throw down some giant rat miniatures. Works fine. I considered using one of my dinosaur miniatures for the quick death, but and I was debating with myself, and I'm like, this is the one thing, this particular apex monster, this is the one thing I'm going to get something kind of sort of more right for. Okay, plop our tank bot in the Play-Doh pretty well. Get that particular arm down in there. The body kind of sticks forward. I got the arms in the dough, and the body kind of sticks forward further than normal. That's probably fine. That's probably fine. I agree. I kind of feel the game feels playful, right? The game feels playful, and I'm going in a bunch of directions that I don't normally think about. And I do like having, you know, it's I got a bunch of stuff. It kind of makes a spectacle. It doesn't have to be exactly right. Unusually casual, I guess, for my history of gaming. All right, so this would be the point where I'm going to apply our release agent again, our man release agent. And so, as you know, this is where I'm going to step over to my window and lean out for this because this stuff sucks. And we'll keep, you know, as I do this, we'll keep an eye. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to visibly see this have any effect on the paint job to the robot there. Maybe we'll keep an eye on it. I'll bring it back. And we'll mix up our rubber right after that. These things aren't the same size anymore, are they? Vapory goodness. Right, so there's there's our tank bot with the release agent port on it. We'll see how that does. Okay, so this is the part tonight that I was the most worried about. Is do I have enough rubber compound? And is it in good enough shape for me to mix up? And what's the revised math for the larger mold? I'm probably just going to estimate this. So I guess that's a quarter bigger. So the original was really a brick and a half wide of material. A brick and a half wide. And then this here is 2.5 bricks wide. So 5 to 3, right? 5 to 3. So I need... Well, it's about 50% more on that one. So it's about a quarter more of the total. Okay, so where I used to have 3 bricks wide, now I've got 5 bricks wide. You know, where I used to have 3 bricks wide total, now I've got 4 bricks wide total. Yeah, that's... So it's a third. So it's I need a third more is what it is. Yeah, good point. Yep, I got a somewhere here. I have exactly that brush you're talking about. Somewhere. Where are you? I'm glad you mentioned that. That's a good point. I thought it was right here. I guess I must have left it in the other room. I'll be right back. Yeah, so there's the brush that has been used if I need to paint on the rubber to begin with because it's not pouring. That is it. Good point. Good call. So I need an extra third. So what have I've been doing? I think I've been doing 1 1/3 units on this, which is 4 thirds. And I need another third of that. So if I think if I make 2 units, if I go up to the 2 there, I think I'll be okay. I think. Pretty sure. Ah, I did not put registers in the robot mold. Thank you. Jeez. God, that is hard. God. I can't believe I just did that. It's like every time. Jeez. Okay, now I'm gonna go hit this with a little more release agent to get down in the registers. Thank you so much. Just keeping an eye on my air quality monitor. It's still in the green zone, but it is kind of on the upper end of the green zone for what that's worth. So the harder part, of course, with our UMU 30, our rather well used at this point UMU 30 rubber compound. I'm going to mix it up in the bottle first. And my pink stuff, that is starting to get a little hard down there. Not very much left. I think it's... So, well, okay. So it's about, I think it's right about where my thumbnail is there. Is the height of it, but it's getting a little bit thick in there, so we'll see what we can do. Yeah, that's... I don't, you know, this may not work tonight. It's a little plasticky down there. That is... This actually... Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna try to use this, but this might be a terrible... I might be making a terrible mistake even trying to use this, because it's pretty kind of globby, plasticky there. Interesting. This will 100% have to be the last time I use. There's no way I can use this again after tonight. I'm really pushing the envelope on this one. So probably stirring doesn't help much because you're all, this is pretty much one homogeneous mass at this point anyway. Will this even pour at all? Probably not. Okay, it's flowing a little bit in there, but I think I'm going to have to spoon it out. So get ready for a gargantuan mess coming up. This is the challenge tonight. I'm using slightly gone by rubber compound. Can't even really measure in the cup because it's not flowing. So far this season, I haven't had an episode where I outright failed. This might be the first episode where I just like totally screwed the pooch. Tanner Cass, thanks for checking in tonight. Appreciate it. I don't think I've ever tried to like scoop out rubber compound before. You know, Tanner, while I'm about to pour this all over my fingers and hands and clothes and desk, we were, if you're just tuning in, we were earlier, this Sathar that I'm making tonight is really long, so I've had to make a longer mold box, and we were debating the orientation. So pretty much everybody but me was suggesting put it like this with the tail at the top. And I guess I'm veering towards having the base at the bottom like I've always done. I'm probably going to have to air vent that tail pretty well, I'm assuming. So I don't know if you have an opinion about how you would have done that. Of course, this thing is just a little bit too long for my spoon. I think probably if I wasn't doing a live stream, I would just say nope, this isn't working. But I'm gonna try to execute here. Arguably, after the last mold, I should have ordered a new supply, but I really wanted to try to use the bottom of the bottle here. Is that? Gads. Is it possible to silicone rubber yourself, like, permanently onto another surface, like with super glue? But I'm about to find out. Okay, so that get a little bit more in there. Yeah. Agreed on the air vents, Tannercast. And of course, I'll plan to do that when we start casting, probably in about 2 weeks. If I manage to get this rubber to work. Wait a minute. Of course, I'm going to be out for next. Of course, I'd have the other half. I can't. I need to. Realizing that even if this works tonight, I'm going to have to get another order just to finish the other half, aren't I? All right. Oh God. That is some kind of alien remnants in there. That seems to be about as much as I can do there. Ugh. All right, that's got it all over my hands. But I got about one unit in my measuring cup here for what that's worth. Okay, that's toast. Now I'm hoping that the blue stuff is always more liquidy, that I can make this a little bit more pourable maybe when I add the blue stuff. Oh God, this is a total mess. This is like, yeah. It's everywhere. Okay. Oh, that's a good call. I never think, I really never think about replacing my X-Acto knife blades. Never think about that. Like I always have a little pack with them, and I just never think to use it. Also, the longer I work here with my AC off, the hotter the room gets too. So currently 82 in here, I see. All right, that mess, put that to the side. So I'm going to try to mix up the blue component. Okay, that is much easier to deal with. Let's see if this actually pours. That would be nice. Two. Yeah, okay. is pretty much the end of that container. So we'll see if I have enough. I'm right on the edge of like everything here tonight. So we'll see if I have enough, or I can get enough in both molds. If I can, I'm going to focus on the Sathar there. Okay, that is. I don't think I've ever actually used like everything in these bottles before. So try to mix this up, see if this mixes up. Okay, and we're supposed to do this gradually to avoid bubbles, but I might have to kind of work at it more than normal here. Now, unfortunately, I have this kind of plasticky pink blob, and having trouble getting that to actually mix with the blue stuff, but I think I'm getting it. Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. This is working. This is not great. It's doing a thing. Switch to the other hand. Scrape the sides. All right. So unfortunately, this is clearly not going to pour like a liquid. All right. So that's actually more homogeneous than I expected to get that. A little plasticky. So. So in an absolutely ideal world, you'd pour a thin stream in a corner and then let it flow over the thing. Push it down a little more, but there's absolutely no chance of that happening. So I will do the brush technique. So I'm going to get the kind of more liquidy part at the bottom. And kind of brush on a layer here. Try to avoid bubbles and such. This is definitely not my best mold making job ever. And of course, this brush is already unusable for anything except this. So I certainly didn't want to muck up another one here tonight. The base. I do have a tendency to get, bubbles at the base, and then I can either pull them off, file them off when I'm finishing a miniature, or just call it like a rock or something. And you know what? I'm also going to paint on a layer on the robot too. The stuff at the end, when I get done, the stuff at the end is probably going to be pretty plasticky. So while I have some stuff that even does any amount of pour, I'm going to use it here. I'm being a little hopeful here tonight with this. Okay, and that rather extensive base on this tank bot. A lot there. Goodness. All right, we're going to call that about as good as I can get that. Oh, good Lord. Struggle tonight. Okay, so now I'll get kind of a mass in on our Sathar miniature. Scoop it out with a dowel. This may be a bridge too far. That stuff is not responding correctly. So this episode can be an object lesson in what not to do for your mold making. When your rubber compound gets like this, don't do what I'm doing. This is not super promising. All right. Anyway, so there's the Sathar. And let me see if I have enough to fill up the robot, or at least partially. So we'll come back next week and we'll find out whether this did anything useful at all. It's possible that next week we might have to just clean up this junk that I'm putting down. and then redo the mold properly. This is really all kinds of not good signs happening right here. And I'm going to put in a order for new rubber compound pretty quickly. And obviously to do anything next week, I'm going to have to get that shipped in. So we'll see if we can get it in on time. Well, that's clearly the end of that particular batch of rubber compound, and I am slightly regretting that I didn't think to replace it after last week. But I thought I was going to get one more mold out of it. So we'll see. That might have pushed it a little bit too far. Yeah, and I don't even know if this stuff is flowing well enough to level out. Kind of doesn't look it, frankly. Well, good question. How old was it? I think I opened it up on the first episode of the stream. So episode 1 here was, I think, around March 1st. So I have been using it since March 1st. I feel like... I really feel like I've had this stuff be usable for as much as a year in the past. But I've been using it pretty frequently here. You know, probably as much as I've been trying to stir it. Every time I use it, I might not have gotten a good mix. So it probably dried out a little bit every time I used it. So it's been, you know, we've been using it here on the stream about 3 months. You know, it was a little crunky when we made our last molds with the humans. I was fighting with it a little bit, but they came out perfectly fine. Like I say, my my MFA partner was very impressed by the detail that I got on them. This, I don't know. That's probably the end of that brush too. It's not really a brush anymore. It's more like a it's more like an elaborate stick. Anywho. So there, hypothetically, maybe that might be part 1 of our molds for our evil Sathar Spaceworms and our evil Sathar Spaceworm companion combat robot. Maybe. So kind of pushing the rubber as far as we could. We'll plan to come back next week. I'll open this up. We'll see if it worked. Just kind of visually see if there's like giant gaps in it or not. I feel like that is a possibility. And either way, hopefully I'll have more rubber available, and we'll plan to either fix this mistake or pour the other side that ought to be hopefully good. I'm hoping, and we'll see. I would love to have those Sathar on the table when it comes time in our game. Yeah, okay, it's an interesting point, Tanner. You don't stir the separate canisters. It incorporates extra air in the product. It did, I mean, I'm following the directions, right? It does say to do that, if I recall correctly. Yeah, it does, right. So the headline, it does say stir part A and part B thoroughly before dispensing. So the directions do say to stir it in the pot before you pour it together. So, as usual, I don't think about going off directions. So that's what I was doing there. My take would be I do think it separates out a little bit, so it's a little bit more liquid on one part and a little bit more solid on one part. So I do feel that mixing it up, I would think, would make it a little bit better in the container. But you're right, I have been trying to be careful about getting air in there while I do that. All right, so as we say, when I get done with a stream, I try to carefully clean stuff, and I have a lot. I have a lot of cleaning to do. This was the ugly mess. That was the least elegant episode of this series I can recall. The spoon's probably dead. Anywho, that's this episode, I believe. You know, those Sathar, they're troublemakers. When the Sathar show up, they're saboteurs, they're tricksters. There's always anywhere the Sathar show up. I mean, they're not the source of the problem, but they're where the problems are. I mean, okay, they are also the source of the problem. So yeah, this seems on brand. I guess I'll say. We've been having a good time with this campaign. It's interesting. A couple of us have been dreaming about the game that we've been having actually, and some inside jokes came up that people have been laughing about all week long between the games. So I feel like that's a really good sign. I'm having fun with it. I'm a little bit, as I've said, I think I'm a little bit more freer running it. Most of my friends that I play with they've been improv stage performers, and so I find myself just kind of working in stuff that I've never done before. Of say, and this moment this gives you a sense of deja vu from a time in your past when something like this happened, and maybe you'd like to tell the rest of us about that scene, and kind of put someone on the spot, and they have to kind of make up some kind of backstory element on the fly. That our players are really good at, frankly. So that's been kind of a nice element. I will also say, unfortunately, I'm reading Peter Pearl's Art of Wargaming and kind of feel that it makes sense to, try to make things realistic, try to, if something weird happens, is it because it should be diegetic in the situation, or is it just because you're following the rules leading you to a bizarre result? And so I actually think that I'm getting with that in the back of my head, I'm getting a little bit more, at least in this game, thinking if something in the game is bothering me because of the way the rules are running, I just start changing it a little bit more freely than I think I do in a lot of other games. So unfortunately, that has resulted in the number of my Star Wars house rules, Star Frontiers house rules is rapidly expanding. So after every session, there's a couple things that I did to tweak the rules on the fly, or things that didn't work out that I want to adjust. So unfortunately, I didn't intend this, but my Star Frontiers house rules has very quickly exploded. So I might possibly publicize that. That was absolutely not my intention. But, there are things that they did to simplify the game, or, things that they didn't, maybe they didn't have the resources to possibly do research, didn't have the time to, kind of dial it in properly. So once again, I've kind of done that in a number of ways. This week I was thinking about grenades. How far can you throw them? What's the blast radius? Where, how likely is it to miss? How risky is it for the thrower and stuff like that? So I wound up watching a bunch of grenade throwing tutorials. And I'm like, geez, here I am again. Yes, and now I can tell the difference between a US M63 versus an M33A2 concussion grenade versus this, that, the other thing. So you've done it again, Dan. We've done it again. But we're having a good time. So I'm gonna look forward to having these guys on the table when it comes time. So that's hopefully that'll be coming up in some number of sessions. So don't forget, if you're new to the channel, the Wandering DMs here, so glad that you found us here. Other days, other episodes of this particular series look more elegant than this spurious mess that I've caused tonight. So feel free to check out some of those prior episodes where things look a little bit neater. And we, if you're not a patron currently, we are greatly supported by our patrons here. If you'd like to join them, please visit patreon.com/wanderingdms. And every single tier, including our $1 tier, gets you on our private Discord server where the conversation is continuing all the time. And we just have the smartest, best viewers and patrons, and always come up with such great ideas for D&D, old school, new school, horror games, science fiction, miniature making, model making, stuff like that. And we'd love to see you on our Discord server. So please join us at patreon.com/wanderingdms. And of course, my partner Paul and I will be back for our regular Sunday D&D talk show. And that's Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be back there this weekend, of course. So I think I'm going to wrap up the stream here. And I'm going to start my rather extensive cleanup that I'm going to need. And I'm also going to put... Oh, interestingly, my air quality monitor, and I think that's possibly because the air quality outside isn't great. It is muggy. I think there's probably ozone. We had thunderstorms come through, and it made the air worse, frankly. So I'm just noticing that my air quality monitor has just ticked up into the yellow zone for the CO2, for what it's worth. So I should probably clean this stuff up, air the room out, and then put the AC back on, because I'm starting to sweat here. I think that was all I had in me tonight. So thank you guys so much for joining this evening and giving some suggestions and going on record about how you would have made these molds. And so we'll put that to the test in a couple weeks and see whether I made the right decision or you were doing better than I was. Or maybe either one of them would have worked. I don't know. We'll find out. So please, if assuming that I get another supply of rubber mold compound by next Thursday, we'll plan to be back here for another episode of Dan's Old Time Mini Show Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you know what? If I don't get the rubber compound in, we'll just make up some other thing. Maybe I'll be painting next Thursday. I don't know. But look for us next week. And thanks so much for joining. So much more fun with you guys here. And we'll plan to see you next time. Have a good week. Stay cool, everybody.